And one of the questions that I had when I went on short-term missions is, can I make a difference? Do I make a difference in a week out of my year? We gotta have faith that we are the 17 wolves released into this gigantic geographic area. And we have to have faith that the little that we do, how we act as Christians, how we act as brothers and sisters, it's gonna have a lasting effect. And perhaps we might not be able to see those lasting effects here on earth, but I believe that when we watch that great film on the other side of heaven, we're gonna be able to see what we did in these parts. And so with that said, we have a panel of short-term missions team leaders. Let's give them a round of applause. Representing the nation of Cambodia, we have Krista. For Childlife, we have Florence Aja and also, oh, I'm so sorry. Childlife, no, we have Yunji and Megan right here. Open Doors, we have Florence Aja and Mike Lee. Albania, we have Sunny and Irene. Representing Japan, we have Sungmi and Mike Manish. And the Australian team, we have Amanda. And so we took questions through Facebook prior to this, and so we have a handful of questions, but we are running behind on schedule. And so I just wanted to open up with one question, and right now as we go through this one question, if you guys can just think about some of the things that you wanted to ask while you heard our guest speakers, or just things that you wanted to inquire about concerning short-term missions or even long-term. And so have those in mind, because right after they answer this introductory question, I'm just gonna give it out to you guys, and you guys will just raise your hand. Our hospitality team will come around with the mic, wireless mic, and you'll be able to ask some of these questions. And the panels, whenever you feel like, oh, I really want to take this, after you've been blinded, just raise your hand and then you can take those answers as well. I'll just go with this one because I really feel like this was a good one. One of the questions said, through short-term missions, after you've come back, how did it impact you in a way so that you lived differently? So kind of you went on short-term missions, but after you came back, how did you live differently? How did you kind of impact the community that you are here in Seoul? Sure, Megan?
So after going to Childlife for the past, I've been there 3 times now, it really impacted me to think about how I view missions in my life here in Korea. And I work with university students, so I really see that as I try to really see that as my mission field here. I created an English club for my students to come and share in different kinds of activities every week. It's once a week at my university, and it hasn't been easy because I'm doing this solely out of my free time, and it has brought about some challenges, but overall, it's been such an amazing platform where I'm able to communicate with my students in a way that I can't during class time. Through this, I've had some students say, well, why do you believe in Jesus? And this isn't even something, it's not like we're having a Bible study, it's just that they know I'm really open about my faith, and this has been an amazing opportunity, and I think it's only through going on missions that I would even have thought about doing this. So that's one way I can see it really changing my life here.
All right, thank you, Megan. And now I just want to open it up to our body. If you have any questions, now's the time. Just feel free, don't be shy. So, I knew that you guys would be shy. So, I'll read some more questions that we have. One of the things that you might be wondering is, if I am to go to short-term missions, how can I prepare myself emotionally to be part of a mission team? Sure. Mike Manage?
Okay. All right. Cool. I think there's a lot. It is short-term missions, and I think a lot of what the missionaries said, and even what Megan said, is very true. It's life, in general. It's your life. There's no way that you can take and be like, well, I'm going to be in the mission field, so I'll be a different person, and then when I come back to wherever I live, I'll be back to me again. That's really not going to happen, because the presence of God's going to be there, and He'll call you into the truth. So I think one thing that's really, really important, and it's scary, is to ask God in prayer to really come in and assess your emotions and what's really going on in your heart. And sometimes He'll put you in situations, He'll put you with difficult people, or you'll be the difficult person, and that's even harder to understand. And that's one of those things where it's really, really, it hurts, but in the end it's much better. You're a blessing to other people for it. Another thing is also, do you get along with others? That's a pretty easy one. Do you find yourself being like the professional rebuker to everybody, your friends at church, or do you think in your mind like, I could do this better, like at work to your boss, or in your small group with your small group leader, and to really like maybe just assess those little things, maybe even write them down. How many times do I even do this every day, and why do I do them, God? And that can really help, because when you're in that mission field, you're under a lot of pressure, and you're in a different place, and a lot of those things will get drawn out. And though that's good, also it would be better sometimes like if you assessed yourself beforehand, and be like, okay, I know I do this, and I know that God cares about me, and He'll be able to heal me from this. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Okay. Yes.
I think you can't really prepare yourself emotionally because there are a lot of unexpected things that happen on the mission field. And when something happens, emotions automatically come out. And I think, like, going along with what Mike said, the only way to prepare yourself is to be grounded in the Word, and also to be praying consistently before you go. I've had a friend where she was leading a mission team, and one of the members drowned, and so she actually had to deal with the grief of losing somebody. Those kind of things we can't prepare for. And like I myself also had, things that were really hard to deal with on the mission field. But, times when you remember some of the verses, you can actually know that how to follow God's word. But if you don't remember the word, that's when I fall. And I've done that many times. And so I think, we're human beings, and I think the only way we can do that is just through the Bible and prayer. Yeah.
Thank you, Irene. Good. Back to the floor, if you guys want. We have a question? Oh, yes, Lawrence.
What was a misconception about missions that was made clear by actually being on the field?
So the question that Lawrence had was, what misconception about short-term missions was clarified while being on the field? Sure.
We're prepared for everything.
So before I went on short-term missions, I was an avid opposer of the idea of short-term missions. I thought that it was a waste of resources and just another item on the to-do list of an already busy missionary. And that people just come and they have an experience and they pay for it, and it's like spiritual tourism almost. And my idea of short-term missions completely changed after I went, and because it's not about how much time we put in or how much effort we put in. It's just about God and how much He can accomplish, and also how the value of yourself changing after short-term missions is also an important factor to it, and it's not to be discounted.
Thank you, Unji. Yes, we have a question back there.
My question is more for the long-term missionaries, and I'm just wondering for people, I mean, in a sense, I know that we all are called to missions, but for those of us that are more interested in going specifically on overseas long-term missions, I'm just wondering what kind of, challenges could you have for those that are interested, just so that before we go, some challenges that we can think of.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we got the question right. So for those who are prepping for longer term missions, correct?
Who are interested in long-term missions, just in our everyday lives. I think it's easy, I guess personally for me, just to be caught up in my own life and just, be caught up in my job and things like that. But I'm just wondering for those of you that are already doing missions, what would be some pointers or challenges that you could have for people like me?
I see. So sounds like Krista or Florence and Aja. Yeah. Challenges for her, like as a missionary, or
challenges that Florence, Aja, and Krista could pose for people like me.
Got it. That's a good one.
I'm thinking of how to respond.
Can I go then?
Yeah.
I'm not a missionary, not on the long term, but actually how I felt about short terms or long term, like missions, is actually, are we available for God? I think it's all about us just going before Him. I don't think we need to be prepared for like certain like tools or programs or training. I think we do need, but at the same time, I think we just need to really give our hearts to God. Like, just every day is a missions field, right? And every day is we are here with a purpose, and we want to serve that purpose. And I think it's all about long term or short term. It's about are we available for God's vision, God's mission, and actually that's why, like, I think some of us been so addicted to go every summer or every winter, but it's actually really grows us and expands us, and just for us to be able to witness God's kingdom further. So I think, are we available? Like, are we ready to go? But we feel like we're not, because I gotta do this, I gotta do that. But oftentimes He calls broken people, and He calls people who are not ready, it feels like, but He equips. And when we make a decision, it's all about committing. And I think I learned through missions prep is actually, I learned how to make decisions based on not about the decision itself, but also about the commitment afterwards. If I go A, He will provide me just enough strength. I go to B, then He will also provide. So God is deliverer, as well as He perfects all the visions and stuff. So I felt like, I'm sorry I'm cutting it, but I think we should be available, and I think that's the challenge that missionaries always give us in everyday life. Am I being before God? Just I'm here, send me, or send you, or send us. Okay.
Thank you.
So, just like Hayong, she asking the question, just like the sister, she already answered. Short time or long time missionary, that is not important. That is important is from your heart. How much you want to sacrifice to God, how much you want to be served God. That is very important. So every day is just like we are living in the world. Every day is challenge for us. So if we do the best for God, that is the mission too. Even though you go short time or long time, that is in my view too. And just like with us, or I believe that maybe with Krista too, every day we stay with the children, and just like every day is challenge for us. Even though you not stay with you're not helping the people, or you not stay with the children, even though you have the family and you are working, every day is challenge from you, and we can do. We can missionary to what we are doing too. And just like for us, we stay with the children. We are just like learning from the children every day, just like the waking up and we need to pray and asking God and what you want me to do today. So every day is new day for us, new thing for us to learn every day. Before after marriage, I just can walk a lot and I can do many things. But after we have the baby, it's many things for me to be a challenge for me. I'm just very depressed and I'm very tired and I asking God, what do you want me to do? And should I focus this one and should I do this one and should I do this one? So it's very important, just like the sister said, we need to focus with God and we need to pray and asking God what God wants us to do. Sometimes just like the human thing, we want to do this one and we want to do this one. If just like the heart, God wants our heart. He just looking our heart. If we want to serve God, that is God will using us, what we are doing. So I think every day is challenge for us. Even though you stay in Korea and even though you are working or even though we are in mission field or even though you are going on short time mission, so it's a challenge from you and we learn new thing and God is using us on the problem and we learning on that problem too. So it's encourage. It's not have in the school and if not have we cannot learning, but from experience and from the problem is God is answer and God is with us. So that is, I don't know, that is answer what the question. That is the one I'm just feeling on. I'm just seeing on the mission and I'm just feeling on that. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Yes.
So a lot of us, I think. Hello. A lot of us would feel like we're not qualified in many ways. Just curious, is there a personal story about how maybe somebody answered the call, didn't feel qualified, and learned that God had put them in a specific place for some reason?
Mike?
I think that's all of us, honestly. But I mean, so I went to Open Doors, and we deal primarily with children. And anybody who knows me, I'm not a kid person. I'm not very gentle, and I just, I never really was good with kids. But I just knew God wanted me to go, and it was. I won't get into the whole story, but basically I just knew that He wanted me to go, and I answered the call, and I didn't see any. I mean, there's so many roles within a mission team, and I didn't see a single place where I could add value. Curriculum for VBS, arts and crafts, games, things that I don't do. Like I don't know. And so the first time I went, it was definitely a struggle internally. Why am I here? And what am I going to add value? How am I going to add value to this team? But really, like as everyone said, it's really about surrendering. And God is so much beyond. I think the biggest thing that I learned is that God doesn't call you to a mission field, whether it's short-term or long-term, or to a ministry because you're qualified. He doesn't call you because of a specific skill that you have. The real reason that God calls you to anything is because you're a child of God. And so the question is, are you a child of God? And if you've accepted Christ, then you are. And that's the only qualification that you need. So if God, puts it on your heart, if you have a pulling or a conviction in your heart for a certain nation or to go somewhere, then I encourage everyone, just pray about it. Nobody feels ready. But it's not about being ready. It's just about giving it up to God. And He says you are, because He says you're His child. And that's all you need to be. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, we have a question, Evan.
So I have a question for Australia Missions team. Yep. You've been waiting for that, right? Yeah, so actually, I'm just curious, could you please explain about the mission in Australia? Because sure. I know like the big idea for the other mission team, they serve children and then they spread the gospel, but what about the Australia mission team?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so Australia is new this year, so many of you may not know exactly what we'll be doing. So we are going to Perth, which is on the west coast, far away in the middle of nowhere. It's a city in the middle of nowhere. But there are many, many people that live there, and a lot of them are university students. So we will be doing campus ministry. And the reason my heart is, I have a big heart towards Australia, is I was actually a missionary for 2 years in Brisbane on the other side of the country. And so my heart still is there. We'll be doing a lot of evangelism, which might be really scary, but I really encourage you to step out in faith, because when you go on missions, whether it is short term or long term, God really does grow you, and He does bless the people that you go to. I have many, many, many stories from my 2 years of people coming to know God. I had one boy, he met, we called it summer project, so when people from the States come for 5-6 weeks, he met missionaries there. His parents were into witchcraft, and he was very against God, but he became a Christian, and now he's a missionary. So you never know the kind of impact that you have, even though it's a really short time. So that's what we'll be doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. There was another one that was pre-written by one of our members, and it said, what can the body as senders practically do for the goers or the people who've been sent long time? What would be the best way to support our short-term or long-term missionaries?
I think it's a really good question, because I think oftentimes missions is very exotic sometimes, like, all these countries never heard of. But I think you really need to be serious about committing, to send long-term missionaries, because, missions, MKs, like missionary kids, they go through a lot of difficult times, because, the people who committed to pray for or financially support, they stop doing it when the condition is not as preferable. And I think I was really challenged once, to share that with the missionary, how lonely they feel, and also how abandoned they feel, when suddenly people stop talking to you, or emails are not returned, or kind of stopped and stuff. So I think, we really need to be, as a congregation, be really serious about, commitment to even to send off people. But at the same time, our Japan team was really blessed last summer. Faye, I saw you somewhere. This small group really contacted out of nowhere, and I just wanted to we wanted to support you as Sunday Outreach, and then what can we do for you? And we're I struggled a lot with the question. I'm what can they do? I know, what Mike said, there are a lot of job delegations that we have to do, to perform within the team. But at the same time, when Faye's team asked, how can we help you? I'm oh, that's a good question, And we ended up asking for them to come up with a care package, Bible verses, or we need coffee, we're gonna be really tired, we're gonna be, it was sweating hot, in Fukuoka, the summer was really hot. Here in Seoul, but it was even worse. So we were asking for a lot of coffee and things like that. But they prepared so much more. It was so hard to pack in our luggage, but they packed so many Korean snacks and coffee, of course coffee and all that blessings and stuff like that. And we ended up sharing with the Japanese, because they were so curious about Korean snacks. And then we were wow, we were blessed by the Japanese, and we were able to use that package, care package, for the field. We took out the candies, and then we went on the street, and then we stuck them on our flyer, and then we ended up handing out. We gave ramen and stuff like that to the Korean students who are studying abroad in Japan. So it was really awesome. So I think we really want to go on these missions, not on our team. We're just representatives, but you guys are all going with us. And we also had a prayer meeting before going on the missions. We wanted to explain our schedule, from morning till night. So for them to pray for us specifically. So that was really such a blessing time for us too. We had a concert prayer, we called it. But those people we have to ask 2 people to sign up for prayer. And we really meant it because prayers really cover us. And prayer, without the prayers, I'm sure we would have a lot of emotional meltdowns. You talked about emotionally, we are never prepared for whatever is gonna happen. So those are some of the things that really popped up, really, as ascenders, prayers really matter. Even just quick 10-second prayer really matters if you can pray for us while we're there. So those prayer cards, please, they are really, we really mean them. So if you can pray for us, that'd be really awesome for short-term missions. But I think for the long-term missions, I wanted to actually for us to really scan our hearts before God and filter and see where God is really leading, and because you are seriously going with them. So continue in the endeavor together with them as well. Not to just cut off your financial support just because you're going through a hard time. We all go through a hard time, and the missionary kids really get affected by that too. So kind of wanted to share that.
Like Sangmei said, the prayer is the most important thing. And let me share, what I experienced in Albania last year. In Albania we are doing English camp there, and we brought many utensils and material to Albania. And in the airport last year, I was in custody in custom because we brought so many things. So Albanian people said that you wanna sell these things in Albania, so you cannot go. So they took my passport, and they took. And I was in custody, and at that time it was team leaders meetings time in Korea. So I sent a text message to them, and also one of my smoke leader, and to my smoke team members. So they start to pray, and Albania is kind of a corrupted area, I'm sorry. So I thought that they will ask us for money, or they took some of our material. But after 1 hour, they didn't ask any money to us, and we tried to give them money, but they rejected. They rejected, and they were mad at us, and they just let us go. And I felt the power of prayer at that time, and most important thing is prayer. God can do anything through prayer.
I think for me, I agree that prayer is definitely most important. I think living there long term, one of the hardest things is knowing that I'm prayed for. I know it, but I don't necessarily hear it from people all the time. So I know people are consistent and they're committed, but letters of encouragement or short emails or just Facebook messages or pictures or anything to help us know that we are being prayed for, that you are thinking about us, because it does get lonely. It gets very lonely. So. Yeah. Encouragement. Sure. Yes.
Be a good time to share your email address to everyone. Facebook name, Kakao Talk ID. Any other questions from the floor? We had a good response for that one.
What's the most challenging thing about a short-term mission?
Okay, go ahead, Amanda.
I think leaving and coming back is probably one of the most challenging. That sounds bad, but you go and then you experience something so awesome, and then you come back and you're like, oh, you know what I did, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, great. But they don't, they may really love you and may be interested, but they don't want to hear hours and hours of stories. And so unless you have teammates that you can reminisce with, it's hard to come back. And even though you are changed and it's good to bring back what you've learned, you're going to miss the people that you met and just that kind of lifestyle of just living and walking in the Holy Spirit. So that's the hardest part.
I think for me, the hardest part was relationships or people. We have to deal with 90 to 100 kids at the English camp, plus our staff that we have to kind of get along with, plus the missionaries, and so it's over 100 people. And so yeah, we don't actually face them one-to-one all the time, but we've had issues where we had like room leaders designated, and they were students. They were model students that we had experienced in past years, but there, in one of the rooms, there was a rebellion. And so the girls didn't want to follow the rules that we had set up. And so we had to kind of take them aside and then tell them, this wasn't something that was Christ-like, and we were asking what was in their hearts and things like that. And so, yeah, we did kind of settle down the rebellion, but yeah, just things like that. It happens, and so we do have to be a little bit more open-minded. We do have to be flexible, and we do have to ask God like what we need to do in order to deal with these kind of hard issues.
I have I think another challenge for sure. I was also on short-term missions several times, and is being okay, being uncomfortable, or maybe getting sick and having to adjust your expectations, or just be able to surrender in whatever the circumstance is, even if it's uncomfortable.
I want to chime in too. Also, I never thought I was the type to get cranky when I don't get my meals on time. But, I mean, those little things really, when you're with 10 other people and they might be cranky too, it just really affects how you start talking to one another, and that just like shifts the focus. And I guess I had to just think before I spoke. And that's something that we don't have to do regularly here, because we get our coffee after our meals. We get our meals after our meals. Like everything's on time. And so, yeah.
Yeah, you're painfully aware of how human you are. And we can put on our best faces sometimes when we come on Sundays, but when you're with someone all the time, like you see a different side and they see a different side of you, but then you can really come to love one another through that. But, oh boy, I had one more thing that I wanted to say, and I forgot a little bit what it was, but yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I can try later. I'll remind you guys tomorrow and shout it out when Doug is preaching. So. Yeah,
I have to say?
No, I was just giving you okay. I don't know. I'll hold it. It's okay.
All right, I'm going to limit us to 2 more questions.
He remembered. I remembered, but it's okay.
Oh, go ahead.
It's okay. Sorry, I just had to look at Sungmi's face, and then I was like, oh, I remembered Revelation. Don't be afraid. No, I think one thing is that you, somebody mentioned here about how you really can't be prepared, and it is true. But I think it's one of those things where you can prepare a lot. Sometimes you're preparing hours a day, and then for months at a time, and then you get on the mission field, none of your plans come to fruition. Like everything that you've prepped for, things change. And I think that's really the challenge time when sometimes you want to look up at the sky and be like, why? But other times you kind of realize God has a different plan, and he's teaching you and he's teaching people there. And that's really when the miraculous kind of things happen. When you're not ready for something, none of your greatest plans worked out. So that's something that is really difficult sometimes.
Two more questions. We got another one.
How far has God stretched you?
The question was, how has God stretched you, or how far has God stretched you ever since being on missions? Do you want to?
So it's good question. How far? So sometimes just like that, God's love is so deep and so high, so cannot cannot measure, but it's amazing because just like when we are in on mission, just like that, we need to be pray and we need to be make plan that what we want to do and what can we do for our mission, and we planning that. But on that mission, God is spread us how far. It's amazing. Sometimes we think that just like example to our mission, we are missionary to our children. We want him to be an exact God and we want him to be like that. But what God is changing them, it's just like more than we imagine. It's spread. Just like we just amazed how God is changing his life. Example is from one of our boy. Here just like begging and he just like no have mom and they stay in the cemetery and have brother together, they begging, and he disobedient, he very rude, and he talking not nice. Even though some of the mission team here know him too, and even though we go and call him, he not nice to us and don't want to listening about Jesus and very bad boy and like that. So me and my husband say that, oh, how can we talk to him? And it's we very hungry to say that no have patience and don't want to talk to him, and when we see him over there, we a little bit scared too for us to go and talk to him. So one God is changing his life. It's more than we imagine, just like upside and down. He just changed totally. He is coming soft and now he is helping us in the children home, and he is a good brother to our children, and he can leadership, and we believe that in the future he can be good more than us, both of my husband and me. He will be good leadership, and one God is using you just accept, say yes to God, and God will spread your life more than we imagine. Yeah, that is the way we are seeing in our children home. Yeah.
I think it's not how far from me, but it's how small I am. I realize over and over again on the missions field that God is so much greater. And I think at home we are like so like bogged down to the little things, like, you know, my lunch plan didn't fall through. This person like ditched me. That would depress me, right? But you know, on the field I realize I'm so small, I'm just so nothing. I don't know if you guys ever been to Grand Canyon. I felt like, oh, I'm just speck on earth. You know, I'm just like little tiny particle. Like it's tinier than that. But I think on missions field, I feel like that too, because I cannot do, you know, we can't do. We sleep on the floor like this in Japan. Actually, Japan is not really glamorous as, you know, on missions like compared to other missions, because we sleep on the floor and then we go to a public bath every night and we get naked. Oh, maybe not. But I feel really small. Okay. So on the field, it's just like what Florence was actually articulating. It just felt like, you know, that it's all about God and who God is, and what we do really don't matter, like, you know, but doesn't matter. But if really about who we are in Christ, we just over and over again learn about that. And I think that really gives us fuel for the rest of the year too. Like I think at church we come back so charged. We wanted to evangelize. We wanted to make disciples. So we have this vision. Like, you know, our team, after coming back from Japan, we had a retreat of our own, and then we shared our vision for the ministry as well as continual missions, because I don't think Japan's like the only place we could go, but I think, you know, missions at home too. So we wanted to kind of continue that, and then just I think it sprung from how small, how little, and at the same time how great and, you know, awesome God is. So realizing that we just, yeah, so it's not stretching, I guess.
Thank you. Yes. Last question, Miranda.
This question is for long-term missionaries, especially Florence and Arthur. I know that unlike if compared to like Western missionaries, they get to take, let's say, a retreat, or even here, you know, we get, you know, vacation and whatnot. But then I know for you, it's really, you know, hard to take even vacation or, you know, just go away. I know that you are here, so probably you are still thinking about the orphans, you know, your kids back there, right? So but it's important that we get like a Sabbath, the true meaning of, you know, the refreshing time. So what do you do to get refreshed and recharged? In that sense, how do you take like a Sabbath? Because otherwise, I hear so many missionaries, long-term missionaries, they get, you know, burned out, and they get just worn out, and they would just give up. And a lot of people, like after a couple of years, they would just, you know, just give up. I hear so many stories like that. So yeah, I want to hear what you do.
Oh, I think that's such a relevant question because we just, went through that as our retreat theme as well. So the question about Sabbath, how you guys take breaks during your full-time mission work.
So,
Yeah, he just say that time with God is time with God, and time with children is he just spend time with the children.
ဘုရားခင်ငါတို့အချိန်ပေးထားတယ်တယောက်24နိုင်ပေးထားတဲ့အတိုင်းမဲ့ဘုရားငါတို့တယောက်24နိုင်ပေးထားသလိုငါတို့စဉ်းစားခိုင်းတယ်ပေချင်းဘုရားနဲ့နေရမယ်ပေချင်းကလေးနဲ့နေရမယ်ငါတို့ဘုရားမှုတော်မြတ်မှာဘလို့ပါဝင်ရမယ်အခုငါတို့ကလေးနဲ့လှုပ်ဆိုတာဒါငါတို့ဘုရားမှုတော်မြတ်မှာပါဝင်တယ်လို့ဒါထင်တယ်အဲကြောင့်ဘုရားလှုပ်တယ်လို့ထင်တယ်ဘုရားနဲ့တူနေရလို့ထင်တယ်
So just for him, he just say that in a day we have 24 hours. So how many time or how many hour we want to spend time with God, and how many hour we want to do the mission. So for him, he just love the children, and so he enjoy with the children too. And sometimes have difficult time too. So he seek God, and God is with him, and just even though we have difficult time, God is always with us. Yeah. So I just answer a little bit, just like that. I think some of you are just like Maria said, some of you married, some of you are single. So just want to encourage you some little message. Just to be a missionary and you have the family and you stay with the children and where you do with the missionary. It's very difficult because sometimes you want to spend time with your family, sometimes you want to spend time with God, and sometimes we have our own problem just like the family side and with the children. So very difficult. So that time we stay in a small room, so I'm just going to the toilet and cry for 10 minutes and sometimes 5 minutes and asking God, what should I do? And why I be here and do your mission? And so just give me the wisdom and how can I focus this issue and how can I do on that. I cannot do what with my own strength because I don't know, not only me, and I believe that every girl we are sensitive and sometimes we very emotionally. And so very difficult time too. So I'm just thank God, and we just connect with the New Harvest Ministry team, Kray and Jiyong and Tholi and Hayong. So I send them some short message. Please, can you pray for me? I have this issue and with our children and with our ministry and with my husband. So sorry for to say that, but he good husband to me too. Sometimes it's very difficult when we are doing the ministry and you stay with your missionary and you stay with all the missionary with the children and you stay with your husband, and sometimes very difficult. So I'm just asking God, give me the wisdom. How can I just focus this problem and issue? So our God is good. He not too late to answer our prayer, and He not too fast to be not helping us. So I'm just thank God. And so the good way is we need to have our mentor and pray support us. That is very important.
All right.
Sorry, one thing I just want to add. So as you heard, it doesn't really sound like they get rest in terms of our definition of what rest is, right? But they rest in God, and that's really amazing. But every time we go and see them, it's literally 24/7 for them. And so I just wanted to add, for any of us or any of you guys who go on missions in the future, short term or long term, or more for short term missionaries. But if there's local staff there, I think one of our priorities, one of our main objectives when we go is to give them a week of rest. So we try to do as much to take off from their plate what we can. And of course, these guys still, are cooking for us and, just like still praying for us and all that stuff, and that's just out of their heart, but really sometimes we really have to ask them, hey, can you just take a seat and just take a minute and just rest, because they really do need it. So just something to be mindful of.
All right, thank you so much everyone for your good questions, and thank you. Let's give them a round of applause to our panel of missionaries here.